Within the big tech companies, you've always had chatbot where you could kind of try to understand how the LLMs were working. But they didn't dare, for many of them, to put that into the open because they were afraid of, their reputation. OpenAI had to do it because they were running out of cash for computing. Even their partnership with Microsoft was reaching some limits. So they released it, and they made a big splash that created all the impact on their valuation and so on. But then now everybody thinks about, this is GenAI is a chatbot, and therefore you need to go query it, ask questions. When the true benefit is to be alerted because the systems is already aware of your preferences.
Thank you so much for joining another edition of The Never-Ending Climb for Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for Companies Running SAP. Today, we have the tremendous pleasure of being joined by Hervé Legenvre. And we have somebody who is leading the research and also teaching at the leading edge of topics around procurement. And he is with the European school that is leading the way on the education for procurement and supply management at EIPM. Hervé, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Sean, thanks a lot for having me today on your show. That's really a pleasure. When we do research, knowledge is here to be disseminated and shared. So
it's beautiful. That's why we're here. Educate, inform, and inspire. So when you're thinking about the students that you work with, I love that role because you're at the front line of getting to see the looks on people's faces when they really learn something important. And with the shifts that we've had in technology, in process, and the way people are working, as this evolves, can you tell us about some of the most important aha moments around how people think about things differently than they used to?
Well, I think it's not very different for people in procurement than anyone else. We've started to play and work with some of these, GenAI tools. In many ways, the quote from Arthur C. Clarke that you cannot distinguish technology from magic has never been so true. And, ChatGPT has taken the whole world, as a storm, and people are still believing there is magic, that there is something very special behind when this is, still only a sort of a, very advanced statistical machine. And I think what this is really pushing people to is, first you play a bit with it, you try to see where you get, and people are really trying to get the right answer to their question. And I think to go forward and to have more aha moment and to try to understand how you can make a really good use of it, it takes curiosity and it takes critical thinking.
Yeah. And that curiosity and critical thinking helps to go and shake the system, as you said, to go and understand how it works. And I think people have traditionally been accustomed to systems being, if they're programmatic systems, they are very rigid. They are simple ones and zeros. If this happens, you turn left. If that happens, you turn right. And today we're starting to inject something that's more probabilistic. And this can feel a bit like a black box. Can you share a little bit more about what you're seeing people keep in mind as they're starting to enjoy this new capability?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point. Programming is a lot about like variables, and then it can take different. But with the model, you cannot predict what type of answer you're gonna get because it's been trained on massive amount of data and just a simple situation. Some people would expect the model to give them some very good answers to some of their questions. And they can get very poor results. We've seen that a lot with some mathematical calculations, for instance. But, I had one of the indirect procurement manager who started to use it to, gain access to, hey, let me try to understand what could be the functional requirement for taxi services in a given area. And a few prompts later, by pushing a little bit the systems to give you interesting answer, you got much more than a team of 4 people in an organization would have been able to write on the topic. So sometimes you can even get better, outcomes than you would ever dream of. And other time you really, really get very, very, very poor answers. And
Yeah.
that's the black box. It really depends on what data, your systems has been trained from the development of the model. And therefore, it's why people need that curiosity, but also that critical thinking to understand when it's going to be working well and what are the frontiers where, they might not be working so well.
And I think that critical thinking is so important across, where we consume our information, how we validate the information that we're consuming, whether it's coming from an LLM or not. This, I think, brings to mind another topic that was really remarkable in this reasoning modes that we talked about, and how when you're looking for the right question, there are ways to go and help make sure that you have thought about something from enough perspectives. And you can prompt an AI tool, a chatbot. We can come back to chatbot as a vibe or a theme later, but you can prompt it to help you think through things in a Socratic method by just saying, help me explore this concept, use the Socratic method, and here you go. And this is what it can help you with, or another critical thinking approach. Where are you seeing that in helping to bring the curious and those with critical thinking to a next level of speed, of velocity?
Yeah. I think there's a number of steps. I think it's important in an organization to say, well, it's safe. So we've got one of these internal models that can be used. The data is going to be leaking everywhere. When people know it's safe, it's important to give the message it's okay to use it.
Yeah.
So, for instance, with some companies, we're organizing a prompt competition. So we take different topics that are classic, more advanced procurement topics, and we get people to develop prompts. So the message is, don't use it for yourself in your area. It's okay to use it. Try, experiment, be curious, see the outcome, and share. And the idea is to build a library of prompts that everybody within procurement will be able to go use, rate, and also improve over time. And the whole logic of this is to make sure that people get accustomed to use it, that, they experiment with it, see the limits of the system, and, have this mix of curiosity and critical thinking, and then capitalize on each other's work. Then you can have a library. And then, okay, I've got something, I've been told we should look into circular economy. So actually, Hervé's been putting on the library 5-10 prompts related to circular economy. Oh, it can give me a lot of options. It can help me try to understand the impact on life cycle costs. It will help me, play the devil's advocate to see if the solution is feasible or not. And then, you can start to use this on the shelf as a way to, solve some of the challenge you're experiencing.
What I really love too is this shift in what feels today like the world becoming a chatbot, as you said. And where that starts to evolve is a fantastic thought experiment and a forecast of where technology takes us. But when the world is not a chatbot, what are you looking for this to evolve to?
Yeah, I think that's been, the AI technologies. I mean, within the big tech companies, you've always had chatbot where you could kind of try to understand how the LLMs were working. But they didn't dare, for many of them, to put that into the open because they were afraid of, their reputation. OpenAI had to do it because they were running out of cash for computing. Even their partnership with Microsoft was reaching some limits. So they released it and they made a big splash, but, created all the impact on their valuation and so on. But then now everybody thinks about, oh, this is Gen AI is a chatbot. And therefore you need to go query it, ask questions. When the true benefit is to be alerted because, the systems is already aware of your preferences. You're a buyer. You're interested in getting information about, companies in a certain field. Well, there's actually a company that's producing bearings in North America that has been rising and capturing some market shares. You should be aware of that. Usually you're interested by that topic. Or,
Yep.
you've got all these suppliers in that categories. One of them, which is some of your biggest supplier, is actually patterns of performance in terms of delivery quality, or they're changing delivery dates, giving you an alert on there's something strange happening. So, that would be the ultimate way of looking at Gen AI, not as a system you query, but a system that automatically provides you the information through an alert or through, something. One of the cases I documented a number of years ago in 2019 was Vodafone. They had created their, it's a telecom company, they had created a design to cost lab within the procurement organization. And what they were doing is they were taking pictures of electronic cards, think of your Wi-Fi at home, the box, dismantle it, take 100 pictures of it, and suddenly, this is capturing information on all the electronic components. And the system goes into a big database and get the price of each of these components. And within, you can come back the morning after, you've got the cost decomposition of this. So here you don't just query, you really have a completely integrated process, that can produce a cost analysis for you. So that's why sometimes I'm challenging the idea that everything should be looking like a chatbot.
What struck me was the idea that this was already in place in 2019. And in, 5 years later, people are still feeling like, oh my God, computers can do that. And with capability that's available today, it feels like as procurement practitioners and supply chain leaders, it's incumbent on us to go and make sure that we don't wait 5 years for our teams to recognize that computers can do that and to get the next generation, next level of efficiency, throughput, velocity, and margin that come from unlocking that.
Yeah.
Hervé, I'm really grateful for you joining today, and I hope more of those folks that are tuning in and watching, listening, can go and check out the great work that EIPM does. And if you're looking to go learn more, Hervé, what's the best way to find you and your team online?
Well, just check EIPM, European Institute of Purchasing Management, and Hervé Legenvre on LinkedIn. I'm publishing a lot of articles in different academic, but also, other types of magazine and on LinkedIn. So never hesitate, always engage, discuss, bring me problems and issues. That's how we can do more research and investigate the ideas of the future.
Amazing. Curiosity at its best. Hervé, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And wishing you all the best. And for all of you watching, this has been another edition of The Never-Ending Climb for a Stronger Procurement and Supply Chain for Companies Running SAP. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.